Hello and welcome to Amazon's secret popularity contest, which is a clickbaity title if ever there was one, and I hope it's gonna live up to it. I'm an Irish author, which you might have guessed by the accent, and you might have guessed I'm a full-time author by the huge beard on my face. I was actually supposed to shave, but I've been writing 3 books back to back, so that kind of thing has kind of fallen by the wayside. Hopefully I'll get rid of it before the summer when things will heat up a little bit. But I write historical fiction mainly. That's my main genre, and I also write quite a bit of non-fiction, books for writers primarily. I've written one on how to self-publish. I've written another one which is you can get for free on my website, actually, called Amazon Decoded, which is kind of related to the talk today. It breaks down how all the algorithms work on Amazon and how you should change your marketing to take advantage of that. Because, I think we all know, especially the people that have been around for a few years, that marketing is getting much more complicated. And sometimes that means much more expensive. But there are actually a lot of cool free things that you can do to increase your visibility on Amazon, which is, as everyone knows, the biggest bookstore in the world. And, if there's stuff out there that you can just implement very quickly to increase your visibility on Amazon, you should be doing it. Because not only will that help readers find your books, it'll also make any promotion that you do put together, it'll give it a bit more oomph. It'll have a longer halo. So instead of maybe 3 days of good sales, you might get a week or longer. And we'll talk about why that happens, because it's all closely related to the popularity list, which we're covering today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tell you what we're going to cover over the next 20-25 minutes. And after, it's basically going to be broken down into 4 sections. First, I'm going to talk a little about Amazon's recommendation engine and how it works and why you need to know about it. Because the way they approach book selling is completely revolutionary. There's no other retailer or company out there that does it in the way they do it. After that, I'll explain what the popularity list is and why it's so important. And then I'll talk about how your marketing should change. But if you're here looking for a magic bullet, you'll get a very small little magic bullet. But mostly it's important to know about how you should set up your marketing. Mostly it's about how you should rearrange the parts. There's not a secret button you're going to press and sales are going to start raining down on your face. This will teach you how to arrange your promotions so that you get more out of them. You get a better return for all that time and effort, and sell more books. So just to talk about Amazon, I know Amazon's a very hot button topic. People love Amazon or hate Amazon, or they always have an opinion about Amazon. I have a blog where I talk about all sorts of things, and any post about Amazon, it'll always get 10 times as much traffic, from the haters and the lovers. I don't really care about all that. I care about using Amazon to reach readers. I care about trying to sell as many books as possible on Amazon. And so I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how sales rank works and the bestseller charts and what the popularity list is and why that's important. And I try and focus most of my energy on that because I want to reach more readers. I want to increase my sales, and I want to share that with people as much as possible. But you do need to understand why Amazon's approach to book selling is very, very different. And if you don't mind going into a tiny little bit of a tech world history lesson just for about 30 seconds. I used to work for Google, and I joined Google at the time they were having a big fight with Yahoo. Yahoo was actually the big dog in search at the time. And Google's approach to search was very, very different. Yahoo was selling off the top bar above the search results, the prime real estate. They were selling that off to the highest bidder. And whoever paid the most money got to appear there. And Google took a radically different approach. They decided that relevancy was going to be just as important as how much money someone was willing to spend, which meant the click-through rate, basically. So if you put a bad ad up there and a lot of people didn't click on it, Google would disappear it. So what that meant over time was that the ads became more relevant, and that people trusted the ads more and they clicked on them more. And that's why Google won. And Amazon would have known all about that. They would have watched that battle. They would have seen the importance of building up trust with your customers and making sure that the recommendations you give them are relevant. So Amazon's core philosophy, to sum it up very quickly, is that they always want to show you the products that you're most likely to purchase. And where that's important for us in the world of books is they're only going to recommend books to you if they think you actually want to buy them and read them. And as funny as this sounds, this was actually a revolutionary approach in the world of bookselling, because if you go into your local Barnes & Noble and or your Waterstones if you're in the UK, or your Easons if you're in Ireland, you'll notice there's a front table as you walk in the door, and there'll be all these books piled high up there, and they're usually the familiar names, you know, the same ones you see at the airport bookstore, which will often only be stocking those books. People like John Grisham and James Patterson and Nora Roberts, all those huge traditionally published authors. And they're generally, along with a couple of hand-picked newbies, piled up on this table, which you know, it catches your notice. It's literally in your way as you walk in the door. And those same kind of authors will be positioned beside the cash register as you're paying for your books, and in other high visibility spots around the bookstore. And I think a lot of us, as readers, assumed that the store manager decided which books appeared there, and it's not. Like that's actual real estate. Those spots are bought and sold. The contract between the publisher and the bookseller will literally say whether a book is face out or spine out on the shelf. All of that is decided, and generally they're only going to do that for their biggest authors where they've, you know, paid a six-figure advance that they need to recoup. They're generally not going to do that for an author who they've only picked up for about $5,000. So that's the traditional way that high visibility spots are doled out in the traditional publishing business. And if you look at retailers like Kobo and Barnes & Noble and Apple, that's kind of how they do it online as well, more or less. Amazon is very different. They don't sell off those spots. Anybody can appear on the front table on Amazon, you or me or anybody else. Amazon will always show you the book that the system thinks you are most likely to purchase. And it doesn't care whether Penguin has published that book or whether I have published it. It doesn't care whether the book is $14.99 or even 99 cents or free. It will always attempt to show the book that it thinks you are most likely to purchase. And as writers, we actually don't get to see the full power of the system, because we tend to, well, I tend to anyway, I tend to be stalking a lot of books that I wouldn't normally read outside of my genre. I'm always kind of looking at what other authors are doing and trying to figure out how they got into the charts and seeing if there's anything I can learn for myself for my marketing. And so that throws off Amazon's system. And sometimes I get recommended a load of books that I wouldn't read. And I think it's the same for a lot of people that work in publishing or who are writers. But if you talk to readers, especially ones that use Amazon a lot, they will often say that the recommendations they get are eerily accurate, and they get a lot of the book purchases that they make every week or every month will be driven by those recommendations. So for us as writers, trying to reach as many readers as possible, it's extremely important to understand how this recommendation engine, which I like to call it a recommendation engine, because it's a giant system for recommending books. It's important to understand how it works, and if you know how it works, then you can turn that to your advantage. I'll give you a very, very simple example. When self-publishing first started out, I think around 2009, 2010, just before it went mainstream, people started figuring out how sales rank works, which, if you don't know what it is, every book has a rank on Amazon which will tell you how it's selling in relative terms to other books. And if you're number one in the rankings, that means you're the best-selling book this hour, basically. And if you're number 1 million, it means there's 999,999 books selling more than you at this current moment. And there's a lot of churn in it. It changes every hour. And basically, a sale today will be worth very little tomorrow and almost nothing in a couple of days. So it really does change around a lot. And people realize that very quickly. And so they started doing something called a book bomb, which was they would organize all their friends to buy their book at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. And they wanted to see if that would throw the book right up the charts, because the system updates every hour. So, and it also looks at velocity, how quickly your book is selling over the day and things like that. And it worked. Like, these books jumped up in the charts. And Amazon obviously didn't like that, because it was a very easy way for people to game the system. So the system now, if it sees a one-off spike where a book has jumped out of nowhere into the charts very quickly, and there's nothing coming after it in terms of, you know, organic kind of sales activity, it will actually push your book down almost as quickly. And what that means for us today is that we have to be aware of that when we're organizing our promotions. So if you have a mailing list and a few blog subscribers and a few people following you on Twitter, the temptation sometimes when we launch a book is to hit all that at once and see how high it can go. And that's a mistake. And what we really need to do is to spread all of that juice over 4 or 5 days, so the system doesn't think that this is an artificial kind of book bomb or a spike, nothing behind it. Then the system will treat your book more kindly, and if you do it right, it'll actually start recommending your book to lots and lots of Amazon customers. And that's the ideal. That's what we're always aiming for, because I'm in the middle of launching a book at the moment, and I'm doing a pre-order for the first time, which means instead of like pushing my book for 4 or 5 days, I've been pushing it for 10 days or 2 weeks, and I'm running out of juice. There's only so much juice anyone has. But what you're always hoping with a promotion like that is that Amazon system will take over at some point. So I remember one of the best launches I had back in 2014. I only did 4 or 5 days of a good push, and then Amazon system took over, and it sold that book for me at almost the same level for another 6 to 8 weeks. And I was doing nothing. I wasn't spending any money on advertising. I wasn't going around telling people to buy it. I wasn't doing anything. Amazon was selling it for me, and that's always the goal. And that kind of approach, which me and a few others have been pushing for a while, of kind of understanding the Amazon system and how it works, you could probably call it visibility marketing. It's just making a few tweaks to your marketing and to your metadata and various little things you do to try and make your book as visible as possible on Amazon. Because people focus on the charts. There's a top 100 on Amazon, but all the categories underneath that, all the way down to cat salute mysteries, all have their own top 100. And I was actually trying to add up how many chart spots you could potentially appear on, or how many there were in total on Amazon, and I gave up. It was impossible to count. There must be tens of thousands. So no matter what sales level you're at, there's always an opportunity to get some visibility on Amazon. And if you're clever about things like your keywords, your categories, and you're aware of how all the parts work, then you can position your book to pick up some new readers even when your sales level is kind of low. And if you can do it when your sales level is high, like when you're doing let's say you're launching a book 3 and you might be pushing book 1 and 2 pretty hard, if you have all that stuff set up well and you understand how the popularity list works and sales rank and everything else, all the different components, you can really you could double or triple like the return from a promotion with proper metadata. So it really pays to get smart about this stuff. But you guys probably know already about hot new releases and about bestseller lists and movers and shakers and all those different parts. At least those are a bit more well known. What I want to dig into is a part that's a little less well known, the popularity list. And it's a pity I can't share my screen, but I'm just going to describe briefly how to find it, because one of the quirks of the popularity list is that it's kind of hard to find, which you might think, why is it so important? But I'll get to that in a moment. But the way you find it is very simple. Go to the Amazon.com homepage. In the top left, there's a button which says All Departments, which is the way you kind of dive into Amazon and search around the different departments. So go to Amazon.com homepage. The top left corner, there'll be a button called All Departments, and if you click on that, it'll bring up, the hundreds of different sections of Amazon, all the different product lines that they sell. And you just got to look for the Kindle books section. You click on that, and now you're on the popularity list. Now, what you'll notice is it looks a little bit like the bestseller list. It's broken down into the same categories and subcategories. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that it's broken down into romance, science fiction, all the usual categories and subcategories of books, the exact same, in fact, as the bestseller list. But what you'll notice is that the order of books is different. And there's some books there that aren't even on the bestseller list, and there's some that are on the bestseller list that aren't even there. And I'll explain why the order of books is different in a moment and why it's important. But it's kind of strange to be talking about something that's so buried, because you're probably thinking, and naturally so, you're probably thinking, why is this important? If it's so hard to find, like to get into like the time travel romance popularity list, you have to make about 12 clicks. Like no reader's going to do that, you're probably thinking. And you're right, no reader does. The reason why the popularity list is important is because it's a huge driver of recommendations to Amazon customers. For example, if you're a KU subscriber, a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, the popularity list is one of the main influencers on which books get recommended to Kindle Unlimited subscribers. So if your book is riding high on the popularity list, you're going to see a huge increase in page reads. And I'll get into that in more detail in a moment. The other reason why it's important is not everyone browses the Amazon website from a desktop. Many people do it from their device, particularly Kindle Fire, because that's much easier to browse the store than the old e-ink Kindles or even a phone. And when Kindle Fire customers think they're going to the bestseller list, they don't actually get pushed to the bestseller list. They get pushed to the popularity list. I think they get, I don't know if the messaging is still the same the last time I checked it, but they think they're on the bestseller list, and they're actually not. They're actually on the popularity list. And the reason why that is important is because the popularity list is completely made up of different stuff, right? And I'll just break it down slightly, and then I'll see if there's any questions. But okay, so the key differences between the popularity list and the bestseller list are kind of mental. For starters, the bestseller list, as you know, is broken up into two separate lists, one for freebies and one for sales. And there's no freebies on the actual paid bestseller list. But if you look at the popularity list, you'll notice there's free books in there. Free books and paid books are mixed together. So freebies actually count. And this is, if you have been a self-publisher for a while and you remember the original KDP Select, where you would just make a book free for a few days and it would get 20, 30,000 downloads without even advertising it that hard. And then afterwards it would sell thousands of copies without you even doing anything. And it would just bounce, the book would kind of bounce up the bestseller list afterwards, and nobody really knew why. Well, the reason was the popularity list, because all of those free downloads were getting counted as sales on the popularity list, which meant once you came back to paid, your book would jump right up the popularity list, and all these customers would start getting recommended it, and they'd start buying it. Another key difference between the popularity list and the bestseller list is borrows are not counted on the popularity list. And this is going to blow some people's minds, I think, because everyone's always thinking that Amazon is kind of putting their finger on the scale and trying to force people into Kindle Unlimited by favoring Kindle Unlimited books, and it does in some ways. But on the bestseller list, if someone borrows your book, that counts as a sale. It doesn't on the popularity list at all. And I think the reason why they do that is because it would just be too powerful. And they want to break the chain slightly. Or else it would create this kind of feedback loop where the entire charts would just get completely dominated by Kindle Unlimited books. And they want that to a certain extent. Obviously, they want Kindle Unlimited to be a success, but they don't want to completely shut out all trad books or all wide books. They don't actually want to do that. They know there are still readers out there for Nora Roberts and Stephen King and all those other people. And Amazon actually is always trying to balance things out. It's kind of like when this is probably a touchy subject for Americans, but when a government tries to do a budget, right? When they're trying to manage the economy, they'll often have different levers which seem to act in opposition to each other. So they might decide to spend some money on healthcare, for example, but then they'll be worried about inflation, so they'll raise interest rates to try and dampen down inflation. But then they'll be worried that it'll affect working families, so they might give them a tax credit. And they just try and balance things out. And Amazon is always doing that. So, for example, they'll make borrows count on the bestseller list, but then they won't count them on the popularity list. They won't count freebies on the bestseller list, but they will on the popularity list. So, and the popularity list is the list they always use to kind of balance things out. So they're always very slow to make changes to the bestseller list because people will notice that straight away and freak out that Amazon is manipulating the store or something. But in terms of the bestseller list, or in terms of the popularity list, they play with that quite a lot. And when you hear people talking about big algorithm changes, it's usually they've done something to the popularity list. So if you feel like something has changed, that's the first spot to look. So where are we? So okay, the popularity list is broken down into the same categories. The order of books is different for the reasons I've explained. Oh yes, very important. The bestseller list is just a reflection of your sales. Like there's only two ingredients in the bestseller list. That's sales and borrows, which are counted as sales, and time. Those sales will decay. The popularity list is calculated completely differently. It's a rolling 30-day average of all your sales. No borrows, but freebies are counted not quite as a full sale, but as about 1/100th of a sale. It used to be about 2-3 years ago, they were counted as 1/10 of a sale. And you might, if you've been around that long self-publishing, you might remember a few years ago, people were talking about a big algorithm change that really screwed over free books. Well, this is what it was. They reduced the weighting of freebies. And in fact, all books are weighted. Amazon actually has price weighting on the popularity list. That's another huge difference. And what that means is, if your book is priced $9.99, that sale will be worth way more than a book priced at 99 cents. So you will see on the popularity list, higher priced books will predominate more than the bestseller list. And again, this is something that kind of favors traditionally published books more than self-published books. But I don't want you to see this as something that Amazon uses to beat down self-publishers. Again, it's about that balance. Amazon is always looking at that balance. I think when they launched KDP Select, too many indies and maybe some books unworthy of the chart position were getting up to the top of the charts. So Amazon tried to dampen that down a little bit by not counting freebies as full sales on the popularity list. And they're always playing with that mix. Sometimes obviously that might favor Amazon published books, but I've seen them make changes to the algorithms and changes to the popularity list, which actually disfavored Amazon published books. So I wouldn't always assume that Amazon are doing something for their own selfish interest. I think they're taking a longer term view a lot of the time. I think they do a lot of split testing, so they see what's working for readers, basically what's selling more stuff overall. So they will happily make a change which will not be good for Amazon published books if it sells lots and lots more books overall, because they're always taking that kind of long-term view. Two more interesting things about the popularity list that will kind of change how you approach your marketing. One is that it seems to suppress new releases a little bit, but and this is kind of hard to figure out, so I wish I could be more exact for you. But pre-orders especially, I've noticed lately, I'm not entirely sure about this, but because I've only just been doing my first pre-order, I usually stay away from them because I think they actually sap a lot of strength from your launch. But I had a very particular circumstance this time where a pre-order was definitely going to be beneficial. So I'm experimenting with them for the first time. And I'm watching my book on a popularity list, and it's nowhere near where it should be. It's about 10 pages back from where it should be. And then I started looking at a couple of other pre-orders that were selling well, like one from Bella Andre and another one from somebody else. And again, they were 5, 6, 7 pages back from where they should be. And then I started looking into any category, any subcategory of the popularity list. And they were all way back from where they should be. So I think Amazon might actually be attaching a kind of a weighting to pre-orders, which kind of makes sense if you look at it from Amazon's perspective. I guess not all readers like pre-orders. Like I'm one of them, so I can't really judge here. I don't like pre-ordering stuff. I like having something now or not having it at all. I think there is quite a segment of readers. They don't want their charts dominated by pre-orders. I can understand that. So they basically put a weighting on them so that they struggle on the popularity list. But what I also think is, after that book actually releases, those sales kind of kick in on the popularity list, which gives you kind of a launch day boost, which is cool because a lot of people have been complaining that you don't get the same launch day boost as you do when you do a pre-order on Apple or elsewhere, because they roll up all the sales for launch day to give you a little algorithmic boost. So Amazon does kind of do that in a backwards way, I think. Hard to be definite about that one. I might know more about that in a week or two, and I might blog about it. The one last thing before I go into like actual direct marketing applications, and then I will dive into all your questions. There's a 4-day lag on the popularity list. And what I mean by that is, if I make a sale today to any of you lovely people, that actually won't count on the popularity list for another 4 days. And this is hugely important, especially for people in Kindle Unlimited. Now, if you've been in Kindle Unlimited, you might have noticed that if you put together a good promotion, that you might have done okay out of it, but page reads don't kick in right away, right? They do a little bit, but the real kind of spike in page reads often comes a week later, and it's kind of hard to figure out why that is. Well, the reason is that it's the popularity list, because the popularity list is such a huge driver of recommendations to KU subscribers, but there's a 4-day lag before the sales kick in on it. So you might be ranking high in the charts after your 4 or 5 day promo, but it'll take another 4 days before you actually jump up fully on the popularity list. And so it will take 4 days at least before your book starts getting recommended in such huge numbers to KU subscribers. So what you'll often see is you might put together a promotion, you might sell a few hundred books or whatever over a weekend, And then it could be the next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before the page reads start to kick in. And you'll see it on your graph just starting to go up and up and up. And you're like, oh, where's this coming from? Well, it's coming from the popularity list. So, and to give you a practical marketing application in relation to that, an actual takeaway that you can apply, this means that if you're in Kindle Unlimited and you're doing like a countdown deal or your 5 free days, that you should just hold off on increasing your prices too much. Like often what I do after a 5-day free run is I might stick the book to 99 cents straight away. Even though you're thinking like, I want to put it back up to $4.99, I want to make some money now. In Kindle Unlimited, I think you should be more aggressive about pricing and keep your prices down for longer after the promotion. Because, as I said, it takes 4 days for those sales to kick in on the popularity list. And I think it's better not to have your rank slip because, usually as soon as you raise your prices after promotion, your rank starts to slip. And, you're more expensive, there's more friction there before readers will purchase it. It's not as much of an impulse buy, it's natural. But if you can wait until the page reads kick in and then raise your price, you will see a much bigger page read wave. And if you do it right, you can see a page read wave that can last for the rest of the month, sometimes longer. And it's really something to behold when you get it right. And a kind of a simpler immediate marketing application, again, this is one for KU, is free is gold again. I noticed this last year when I had a standalone book and I kind of didn't know what to do with it, and I was just playing around trying to figure out some stuff. And I was applying for a book club every so often. It's hard to get one when you're in KU, and sometimes I just stick in an application without any real plan because I'm so sure they're going to say no. And they actually said yes, and I was like, oh sugar, now I better do something with this. So I put together a little promotion, and I just used it to drive signups to my mailing list because it was a book 1 of a series, but book 2 wasn't out yet. Well, it wasn't the best planning in the world, but I just decided to roll with it. And the BookBub run, obviously, a free book on BookBub always does well. So it got like 30,000 downloads or something. And then after it went back to paid, I noticed, I think 4 or 5 days later, page reads started to kick in. And they just went crazy for the rest of the month, which is great because I just put that book in KU and I didn't really have a plan for getting the reads going. But there's a very easy one. Put a book free for 5 days. Just make sure that you can rustle up 5,000 downloads because if you don't get at least 5,000 downloads, you won't jump up enough on the popularity list to trigger those recommendations to KU subscribers, which is what it's all about. And I think that's it. You can usually see me around on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and feel free to ask me any questions. But the Amazon Decoded book, in case you missed the info at the start, that breaks down all the things we've been talking about. Bestseller list, hot new releases list, movers and shakers, how search works, how categories and keywords work. And then there's a whole chapter at the end pulling all the bits together about how to actually, and I think I actually give a template on how to launch a 3-book series based on the algorithms and how your launch should kind of change. There's a whole section for KU people as well, but the extra stuff they get to play with. So check that out, and thank you very much.